Chapter 12, Ferns. Ferns, although there are not many varieties of them available for culture indoors, are probably more universally used as houseplants than any other class of plants. Their culture is not difficult, although it differs somewhat from that given most of the plants described in the preceding pages. In the first place, ferns want a porous soil. Say 2 parts green leaf mold, 1 sand, and 1 old manure or rich loam, the latter being preferable. In the second place, they should be given a warmer temperature, a minimum of 55 degrees at night, being very desirable, although not absolutely essential. The third requisite in success with ferns is a moist atmosphere, as well as plenty of water at the roots. If the pots are carefully drained, facing page 41 as they should be, and the soil properly porous, it will be almost impossible to overwater at the roots. Great care should be taken, however, not to wet the foliage, particularly where the sun can shine on the leaves. When the fronds must be wet, to keep them clean, try to do it on a warm day, that they may dry off quickly near an open north or east window. They should always be given as much light as possible, without direct sunlight, and as much air as possible, while maintaining the proper temperature. Many of the ferns can be increased either by runners or division, and these are easily propagated at home. Those which are grown from spores, the Fern Seeds, it will be better to get from the florists. Most of the ferns belong to one of 3 groups: the sword ferns, Nephrolepis, the maidenhairs, Adiantum, or the spider ferns, Pteris. The distinguishing feature of the sword ferns is their long pointed fronds. The maidenhairs command attention by their beautiful feathery foliage, in some varieties as delicate as the filmiest lace, and the spider ferns, seen usually in mixed varieties in dishes or fern pans, are attractive for their shades of green, gray, white, and silver, and compact growth. The sword ferns. The old widely popular sword fern was Nephrolepis exaltata, but the original form has been almost entirely replaced by new varieties developed from it, the most widely known of which is the Boston fern, Nexvar bostoniensis. The wide popularity of this fern is due to both its beauty and its hardiness, as it will stand more ill usage than any other house fern. It grows rapidly and makes a handsome plant at all stages of development. The Scott fern. A well-grown large Boston fern requires a good deal of room, and the long fronds, 3 feet or more in length, are apt to get damaged at the ends. For these reasons, the Scott type fern, a development of the Boston, is for some purposes a better plant. Its fronds are like those of the latter, but shorter and proportionately narrower, and the habit of the plant is much more dense and compact. It makes a very satisfactory plant. The Plume Type. Another fern developed from the Boston is Whitmani, in which the fronds are not so long, but the foliage is so finely divided that it gives a decided plumy effect. The Whitmani is perhaps the best of this type for house culture, as the others, under adverse conditions, are likely to revert to the Boston type of frond. Piersoni and Elegantissima are exceptionally beautiful, but must be given careful attention. Scolzelli, sometimes called the crested Scott fern, is very beautiful and well worth trying. The maidenhairs. Of the beautiful but delicate Adiantums, perhaps the one most frequently seen in the florist's window is A. farliense. With its drooping lace-like light green leaves, it is not, however, suited for house culture, and while it can be made to succeed Do not waste time in trying it until you have mastered the growing of the hardier sorts. However, just because Farliense is so delicate, do not feel that you cannot have any maidenhair fern. Crowianum is another beautiful Adiantum, and as its fronds are much firmer than those of most of this class, it withstands the trying conditions of house culture very satisfactorily. Another maidenhair, often called the hardy Farliense, is Adiantum CV imbricatum. As its name suggests, it looks very much like the Farley fern, but it is suitable for house culture. It is a very satisfactory fern, and just recently there is another from England called the Glory fern, Glory of Mordrecht. I have not seen it, but certainly from photographs and what the horticultural journals have said of it, it will make a very fine fern for the winter garden. The spider ferns. The name given Pteris ferns is descriptive of only part of them, as they vary greatly. They are commonly used in made-up dishes or with other plants, but most of them will make fine single plants as well. P. wilsoni is a popular sort making a compact plant with a unique tufted foliage of light clear green. P. cretica is dark green or green lined with white, according to the variety. Victoria is perhaps the best of the several variegated Perensis. Pteris. The Boston fern is easily propagated at home by division. Cocos wedeliana is a small palm, but one of the most graceful of all. Phoenix robelini is one of the more recent and best developments of the old favorite fan palms. Ferns. Other ferns. The holly fern, Ceratomium falcatum, is another very desirable house plant and has been a favorite for years. It is very dark green, substantial glossy foliage, and stands up well. There is a new holly fern, however, which I think will replace C. falcatum. It is C. rochfordianum. Its foliage is not only a richer, deeper green, but the pinnae, or leaflets, are deeply cut and also wavy, and have given it the popular name of the crested holly fern. Be sure to try it among the next ferns you get. Fern balls, which are usually composed of one of the davalias, sometimes prove unsatisfactory. Be sure in ordering to get them fresh from some reliable mail-order house, rather than take chances on them at the florist. The best way, however, is to get them already started. If you get them in dormant condition, soak in tepid water, and then give it temperature as near 60 degrees at night as possible until they start. While not strictly members of the fern family, the asparagus used for decorative purposes under the name of asparagus ferns are commonly classed with them. Since their introduction, they have proved very popular indeed. Asparagus plumosus nanus, the lace fern. No foliage is more beautiful than the feathery light green sprays of this asparagus. Notwithstanding its delicacy, it keeps wonderfully well when cut. The plants can be grown as pot plants or as vines. If wanted for the former purpose, keep the sprays pinched back at 12 inches and the roots rather than restricted. For vines, keep in large pots or boxes, always well drained and keep well fed. Asparagus sprengeri, in both foliage and habit, is very distinct from A. plumosus. The leaves resemble small glossy pine needles. Borne in long sprays as it is trailing in habit, it makes a unique and beautiful plant for stands or baskets. The sprays keep well when cut and make an excellent background for flowers. It is now used more universally for green by florists than any other plant. Either of the above may be started from seed or propagated by dividing old plants, but small young plants may be had of the florist at a very low price. They need about the same treatment as smilax. See page 94, but will do well in a temperature of 50 to 55 degrees at night. Shower frequently, but water only moderately. For many years, these two varieties have held the field to themselves, but recently a new asparagus of each type has put in an appearance. Hatcheri resembles Plumosis nanus, but is more compact in habit, and the leaves are much closer together on the stems. If it remains true to type, and is as hardy as Plumosis, it will replace it, for it certainly is a more beautiful plant. A.S. variegata is very pretty sport with the leaves edged white.